I was driving in my car listening to the radio a few years ago when an interview came on of an author at the Sydney Writers' Festival, and he was sharing about a time in his life when he hadn't become successful yet, and he was an international student in London, and he was on a scholarship, and for some reason the scholarship was revoked and he found himself destitute. And he had a few friends in London that he could stay with from time to time, but most of the time he found himself on the streets. And he didn't have any money for food. All he had was a bag with some clothes and some books in it. And so during the day he would carry this bag around, carry his books around, and then at night time he would try and find a quiet space out of the weather, probably similar to this sort of location where he could get some sleep. But he found it very hard to sleep because he was so hungry. And so he would often find himself night after night devouring his books, reading them over and over and over again. And he shared how this reading over time actually dissipated that sense of hunger, and he was able to shift his focus from the hunger to the books and the stories that he was reading, and to escape into that place. And I found it fascinating that it was possible to satisfy such a physical need of hunger with reading. And I mean, the truth of the matter is that at some point he would have needed to eat. He did manage to get himself out of that situation, and he became a successful writer. But the books, long term, weren't satisfactory in filling that need of hunger. And it makes me think of where it says in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 that God places eternity in the human heart. And so he places a longing inside each person that is for him and can only be satisfied by him. But yet so often we try to satisfy that need with other things around us in our world. We try to fill it and mask it with something else. Pretend that we don't need God. We're going to listen to a testimony now from Ken Mansfield, who is a guy who worked closely with the Beatles for many years, and he shares about that idea of filling that need and coming up empty, finding himself empty, and how he found Jesus through that. So please have a listen, and I'll be back in a moment.